So this is day 2, obviously, and I had an original idea of sharing an entire timeline throughout my life of what shaped my ear. And that's fucking impossible. Because there are just too many artists, there are too many movies, there are too many moments, really. So I decided to isolate a certain portion and just kind of open that up. That is way more doable and logical in a way. And the portion that I decided to kind of hone in on is adolescence, specifically middle school. I was homeschooled for middle school, and that was a wild time, but I'm just going to focus musically and give you some really, really embarrassing stories. So, yeah, let's isolate. So I was put into homeschooling for middle school because at the end of elementary school, I was becoming a bit of a problem. And the good thing is that all the time alone that I had due to being an only child, this relationship with music grew really, really strong. And what was also really cool was that there was a moment where I could actually choose music for myself versus outside influence, which is natural and normal. It's just that I finally could come to something and choose it, right? And the way I did that was on the weekends I would see my dad. He would usually drive up listening to Eminem Encore, and we would go to this bookstore that used to exist called Borders. At Borders, you could scan a CD and listen to it, right? There was like this kind of machine. They probably have some still, but I'm just like living in the past while I'm talking about this, excuse me. And due to having really, really poor social skills, keep in mind I'm like 11 or 12. The ages are 9 through 12 here, okay? And I was a fucking mess of a child, okay? So we would go to Borders, and outside of headphones, I was aware I was in the world, you know what I mean? Sorry, but when I would wear the headphones, it's like I would enter an alternate reality, you know? And it was beautiful, but also super embarrassing outside of those headphones. But anyway, I'll get into that. So just like a music store, this bookstore, had the traditional rows of music you would walk through, right? And there was this one CD, you'll know who it is by the description, where there was a woman falling backwards, right? Or like falling. And she had like a swan imprint. It was black and white. And I was so smitten by that cover. I was just like, who is that? So I immediately just gravitated towards it. I looked in the back. I liked the back even more. I was like, okay. I scanned her, put those headphones on, and oh my gosh. Just the first song. It's as if I had heard music for the first time. I didn't know what to do. I was lost in it. And that is absolutely Vespertine by Bjork. That was the first album I chose on my own. Pretty advanced for an 11-year-old or like 10-year-old. That was like kind of the range I was in. 11 or 12 actually, sorry. But I was still able to appreciate it. In my opinion, I appreciate it way more in adulthood. However, that first moment, being so young, listening to that, was a really special, special memory. And I listened to a few more albums thereafter, but Vespertine was the one I chose. And I liked that album so much, dude, that I started interpretive dancing. Fucking in public, okay? Yeah, I started just flailing my arms, flailing them around through the aisle. I didn't care. I remember like yesterday that there were people there just like, and I was twirling around them. I didn't care. I was like, I'm listening to Bjork, And so that I had like this confidence from who knows fucking where when those headphones were on. Okay, I didn't give a fuck. A delusion, even. I don't know which word you want to choose. Sorry, I started stuttering when I said confusion. I like malfunctioned, but yeah, I was just like lost in the music quite literally. So then I listened to the whole album, and once the album stopped, I took the headphones off and realized that I was in the world. I realized, oh, these people aren't in awe, they are concerned. So I was extremely embarrassed, but I was like, fuck it. You know, I was like Samara from The Ring. I was just like me on crack when I was 11 or 12, okay? I was so fucking weird. And so then I went to the counter and then I realized, oh, they could see me from there. And I was made sure that they could see me because when I went to the counter's here and I'm just like flailing throughout the aisles here. And so I go up and this guy is already smiling, okay? And he goes, hey, you know, saw you dancing out there. And I'm like, fuck, you know? And so I thought in my twisted little mind that if I pretended I was Irish, that he would not remember me. Like that's what would cover my identity and make him forget my face. If I pretended I was Irish. So this tiny child from Florida started pretending she was Irish and said, yeah, that was me dancing. You know, the worst accent known to man, obviously. I mean, what the fuck? So he is holding back the tears. I remember this, dude. I remember this. He's holding back the tears because he's like, oh no, there's layers to this, you know? And he goes, he lets out a laugh and he goes, what's that accent? And I'm like, I'm Irish. You know? And so then he's like, oh, she's insane. So he's like, oh yeah? Really? Where exactly are you from? And I'm like, I just want the CD, you know? And so I bought the CD and I looked at him and I like ran to go seek my father, who I think I already said this. I don't know if I did, but when my father saw me dancing, he left the fucking store. So I went to go get him. And then of course I was American again. But yeah, would do that a few more times. And yeah, it was just a wild time. But coming back to the actual influence of music, the second like impact would be Massive Attack as well. When I heard Massive Attack, that was also just like that same kind of feeling, like, oh my goodness. But of course, I wish I had the CD here. I think it's in the other room. I'll try to bring it. But the collected works didn't come till much later, right? But I listened to Mezzanine, which was out at that time. And oh man, I didn't know what to fucking do. I was just like smitten. So yeah, sorry, it's very common with me to just like space out and get lost in the past. But yeah, if I had to represent that time of my life, you know, that specific time and represented by sound, it would be the discovery of Bjork and Massive Attack, hands down. And how lucky, right? That's what I chose as a child. That's pretty sick. I'm not even making this up, I swear to God. That's what I chose. I do remember picking up a little bit of Radiohead and Soundgarden, and then also listening to what my parents listened to, right? But that's what I chose. And again, this would be an occurrence where I would go to the music store. I would, you know, dance like a nut. My dad would leave the store. But that marked a really, really special time of me finding music on my own. Which would later, I would meet up with that kind of, let's call it behavior, I guess. I don't know. In my early 20s, because that unfortunately got lost in high school. In high school, there was this outside influence again, and a lot of things were happening in high school. But anyway, coming back. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to share that. Um, that definitely marked me. You know what I mean? In the best way possible. Um, and there was nothing because of being homeschooled, being an only child, all this shit. When I would listen to music, it almost felt sometimes like that's the only thing I had, and that was the only thing that made sense to me. And in my mind as a kid, it felt like that understood me. So it was a relationship, quite literally for me. Um, and that point in time is marked by that the most. And I get to have that again now, but it means a lot when you're that young and you're having that kind of privacy with music. Um, of course, there's, pros and cons to every stage, and there was a lot. There's so much going on. But music was my safe house, you know? So yeah, I'm just thinking of other things. Let me look up real quick because I'm starting to think. When did Donnie Darko come out? 2001. Oh yeah, I was around that age, and I saw Donnie Darko. Donnie Darko I would have to add to that list. The music soundtrack and film score to Donnie Darko also did something to me. But I also felt very, very seen with that movie. But yeah, okay. If I have to make a top three, just symbolizing that time in my life, Bjork, of course, Massive Attack, and Donnie Darko. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, I think this is like a fun thing to do. You can only imagine me trying to attempt an entire fucking timeline. There's no way. And the amount of insane stories throughout that entire time, it would have taken like 2 hours, and I can't even talk for that long. So, yeah, in adolescence, or you know what, choose whatever stage in life. What were your, let's say, symbols? Because I could say right now, elementary, like really, really young kid, the one person I could use to like represent that time was Aaliyah, hands down. Like no one could touch Aaliyah for me. She was the reason for realizing, oh, you don't have to have this powerhouse voice that moves mountains. You could have a soft voice and have the same effect. So she was like revolutionary in her own way. But I'm not gonna, sorry, I'm already like trying to go all over the timeline, but yeah, thank you. And